Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Ever stop and think about what the first pandemic actually looked like? I mean, way before the ones we always hear about, like the Black Death or Spanish flu. Something truly ancient, maybe even tied to how we started living together.
It's a huge question.
It is. And it turns out it's not just thinking out loud. Today, we're diving deep into this incredible new study. It basically maps ancient diseases across thousands of years.
Yeah, it's pretty groundbreaking stuff.
We're going to try and unpack this surprising link between farming, settling down, domesticating animals, and the rise of these really deadly diseases.
And why it still matters.
Exactly.
Right.
Why this ancient history actually gives us some crucial clues for our health right now.
Well, the scale of this research is just massive.
Yeah.
Scientists got DNA from 214 known human pathogens.
Wow, 214?
Yep, and that's from over 1,300 prehistoric people across Eurasia. Some samples go back as far as 37,000 years.
37,000.
Yeah. It's easily the biggest study ever done on the history of infectious diseases. Gives us this amazing window.
Okay, so what's the headline? The big takeaway.
The main finding is about zoonotic diseases, the ones jumping from animals to humans. Think COVID for a recent example.
Right, we're all too familiar with those now.
Well, this study shows they really started spreading around 6,500 years ago and then became much more common about 5,000 years ago.
Okay, 6,500 years ago. What clicks into place around then? What's the trigger?
It lines up almost perfectly with the widespread adoption of farming and keeping animals.
Huh.
And not just that, it also coincides with these big migrations of pastoralists, people moving with their herds, coming from the Pontic steppe area, Eastern Europe into Central Asia.
So like a perfect storm of factors. Closer living, more animals, people moving around.
Exactly, a combination of environment, how people lived, and movement.
And the impact wasn't small, I'm guessing.
Oh, definitely not. These ancient infections weren't just making people sick. They likely caused huge population drops, pushed people to migrate, and even drove genetic changes in humans over time.
It shapes who we are, literally.
Precisely. And think about this, just to give it some scale. Before about 1850, maybe a quarter of kids died before their first birthday.
Oh, that's staggering.
And another quarter before they hit 15. Over half of those deaths, infectious diseases.
Wow.
This study helps us see the really deep roots of that burden, how we got to that point.
Okay, so let's dig into some specifics. Which diseases popped up? Any big surprises?
Well, one of the most striking finds, they identified the world's oldest genetic trace of the plague, Yersinia pestis,
Plague? How old are we talking?
from a sample dated to 5,500 years ago.
5,500 years. That's much earlier than I would have guessed. Did they find much more plague?
They did. 42 cases in total, and 35 of those were completely new finds from the study. The earliest ones date somewhere between, about 5,700 and 5,300 calibrated years ago. And that calibration is important. It fine-tunes the dates.
Right. And where were these found? Was it all clustered in one place?
That's the really interesting part. They were spread out. Western Russia, Central Asia, even way over in Siberia near Lake Baikal.
So not just a local outbreak.
Exactly. It really challenges the old idea that early plague was just, isolated spillover events from rodents. This suggests it was maybe more widespread much earlier on.
Yeah.
And they also saw how the plague bacterium itself changed over time. Mutations that made it better at spreading via fleas, for instance.
Ah, the flea connection.
Right. And those genetic shifts seem to line up with when plague went from being maybe a more constant, low-level thing endemic to causing these massive sweeping epidemics that we read about historically.
Fascinating. What about other diseases? You mentioned louse-borne relapsing fever before. Yeah. Borrelia recurrentis.
Yes, LBRF. They found 34 new cases. And the earliest one, a Neolithic farmer in Scandinavia.
Neolithic. So Stone Age farmer.
Yeah, which tells us that human body lice were already spreading diseases back then.
That's kind of grimly fascinating.
It is, and historically, LBRF is linked to things like crowding, poor hygiene, cold weather. The study found the most cases during the Iron Age and Viking Age.
Okay.
What's also interesting is that LBRF seemed to have a different pattern than plague, more like sharp, localized outbreaks rather than the huge pandemics, almost like they peaked at different times or in different ways.
So sort of an opposing dynamic sometimes.
Perhaps, yeah. Suggesting different triggers or transmission dynamics.
Were there other really old pathogens, maybe even pre-farming?
Yes, definitely. They found yersiniosis, caused by Yersinia enterocolitica. And interestingly, this was one of the few zoonotic infections they found in Mesolithic hunter-gatherers.
Mesolithic, so before widespread farming.
Right, around 6,400 years ago, they linked it to eating contaminated meat, maybe raw or undercooked, from animals like boars or wild cattle. It gives us a glimpse into disease before the big agricultural shift.
It's a rare find then.
Very. And even older, they found diphtheria, bacterium diphtheria. The oldest trace goes back to the Mesolithic too, maybe 11,300 years ago.
Wow, okay, so that one's been with us a very long time.
A very long time. And then there's leprosy, leptospirosis, malaria, even hepatitis B. They found ancient evidence for all of these, painting this really rich picture.
Any surprising links there, like with leprosy?
There was a hint, yeah. Leprosy cases in late Iron Age Scandinavia, they might be linked to the squirrel fur trade.
Squirrels? Really?
Yeah, apparently the leprosy bacterium M. leprae can infect both humans and red squirrels. So handling infected furs could have been a route.
Never would have thought of that. And hepatitis B.
Ancient HBV evidence goes back almost 10,000 years. It shows up alongside many other pathogens too.
Which brings up another point, right? People weren't just getting one thing at a time.
Not at all. The study found 15 cases where individuals were infected with multiple different pathogens simultaneously.
15 cases of co-infection. Any examples that stand out?
There is one particularly striking case, a Viking-Age person from Norway. They had evidence of both smallpox, the variola virus, and leprosy.
Smallpox and leprosy at the same time.
At the same time.
I can only imagine how devastating that would be.
Yeah.
It must have made everything so much worse.
Absolutely. It likely worsened the progression, the outcome. And they noted hepatitis B often showed up with other serious infections like plague, LBRF, malaria. It suggests chronic hepatitis might have been a pretty common underlying issue.
This complexity, it leads into this bigger idea, doesn't it? The first epidemiological transition.
Exactly. That's the concept that major shifts in how humans live, especially the move to farming, led to a bigger burden of infectious disease overall.
And this study provides actual proof, like molecular evidence.
For the first time, yes. Direct molecular evidence supporting this long-held theory.
So how does the timeline play out in the data? When do different types of diseases really take off?
Well, the zoonotic ones, the animal-to-human diseases, you see them consistently emerge and increase starting around 6,500 years ago, bang on with the rise of farming.
Right.
Then the anthropogenic ones, primarily human-to-human spread, they show increased detection rates starting around 2,500 years ago.
So later, why the delay?
Likely because you needed larger, denser, more settled populations for those human-to-human diseases to really sustain themselves and spread effectively. Farming created the conditions first.
Right, the larger communities living closer together.
Exactly. And animal husbandry, obviously, bringing people and livestock into constant contact, increasing the risk of those initial jumps.
And the migrations we talked about.
They were crucial too, especially those large-scale movements from the Eurasian steppe. As these groups moved, they likely carried and spread diseases across huge distances, introducing them to new populations.
So it makes you wonder, what was the bigger historical impact? Was it just sickness, or did it reshape societies?
The study floats a pretty significant idea here, that these waves of new zoonotic diseases might have caused major population declines in Europe.
Declines, like collapses.
Significant declines, yeah. Which could have, in turn, made it easier for new groups of people, perhaps those migrating pastoralists, to move in, settle, and mix with the remaining local populations.
That sounds familiar. A bit like what happened in the Americas after European contact.
It's a similar kind of dynamic, yes, showing how disease can fundamentally alter population structures, drive migrations, and even, over the long term, lead to genetic selection.
Like selecting for immune genes.
Exactly. They mention possible links to selection for genes involved in diseases we see today, like multiple sclerosis, ancient diseases leaving a legacy in our modern genomes.
It's just profound. And the fact that we can see this now, using DNA from teeth and bone.
It's incredible. Teeth turned out to be particularly good reservoirs, preserving DNA from both the microbes in the mouth and pathogens that were circulating in the bloodstream. A direct window we just didn't have before.
So let's bring it forward. This isn't just ancient history, right? There are implications for today, for the future.
Oh, absolutely. Understanding how pathogens emerged, spread, and mutated in the past could be really significant for developing future vaccines, for instance.
How so?
Well, if we know which mutations helped a pathogen succeed historically or jump between species, it helps us anticipate future changes. It can inform vaccine design to make sure we have broad enough coverage against strains that might emerge.
Especially since so many new diseases are expected to come from animals.
Precisely. Many experts predict future pandemics will likely be zoonotic. So understanding the deep history of that process, how it happened before, is incredibly relevant for preparing now. It's about using the past to navigate the future.
It really underscores how tightly our health is linked to our environment, our choices, how we live with animals, how we interact with the world.
Deeply interconnected.
Okay, so to wrap this up, this incredible study gives us clear, hard evidence. That shift to farming thousands of years ago, it fundamentally rewrote the rule book for human disease. It unleashed new threats that are still with us, still evolving.
A pivotal moment in human history seen through the lens of microbes.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. Zoonoses, these animal-to-human diseases, they make up something like 60% of newly emerging infectious diseases today. Our world is more connected than ever. Are our modern lifestyles, our global systems, potentially setting the stage for the next first pandemic? What lessons, maybe uncomfortable ones, should we really be taking from this deep dive into our ancient past to prepare ourselves? What stands out to you from all this? How does it change how you see our modern world?